Hello, I'm Zora Neale Hurston, and let me tell you, I'm so excited to be back here in Harlem, New York. You see, I spent some time down in my hometown in Edenville, Florida, and while I was there, I told all my friends and my family all about the life here in Harlem, New York. This is the place to be. The 1920s, a time of change, a time of hope, a time of promise, and a time of power. You see, the arts just seem to be flourishing all around. The music and the dance, the sculpture and the painting, literary works, and of course, the poetry. The words of our people, the words that sing our praises. These words just seem to be all around and heard throughout Harlem. Those poets use their voices to represent the voices of the people and to represent the voice of the times. And I just enjoy being in the mix of those great poets. I remember the time Langston Hughes shared with me, he was on a train ride going to see his father. And just sitting there and looking out the window, he began to pen these words. I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood through human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. Oh, he was such a wonderful writer, Langston Hughes was. And you know, I remember one time I was at an establishment right downtown, and there was James Weldon Johnson giving his poem. He was beginning it, and as he was bellowing it out, he said, "And God stepped out on space, and he looked around and he said, I'm lonely. I'll make me a world." Well, you see, Johnson was giving us the entire story of God's creation in his poetic version, just as it was written in the book of Genesis. And then there was my dear friend, Alice Dunbar Nelson. You know, she was once married to Paul Laurence Dunbar, and I'll share something about him in a minute. But Alice was such a gentle writer, and she wrote a piece one time, and she wanted to present it to me, and she wanted to recite it. So she got in that nice formal pose as she does sometimes, and got that position, and she said, the idle lingerer on the wayside road, he gathers up his work and yarns away. A little longer, ere the tiresome load shall be reduced to ashes or to clay. Oh, that was just like her to write something like that. And then there was Paul Laurence Dunbar. He wanted to reach the people. He wanted to reach back and talk about our people in history, the things that we had to go through, the things that we lived through. And he said, we wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. And those were the wonderful words of Paul Laurence Dunbar. And you know, above all the artistic things that were going on in Harlem in the 20s, oh, the jazz just seemed to tie it all together. The jazz that came up from Deep South, came up from Louisiana, the jazz that came from Chicago and came and just took its place right there in Harlem, New York. And some of the poets began to grasp that rhythm and lean on it as they wrote their poems, such as Langston Hughes, as he wrote the Weary Blues, droning a drowsy, syncopated tune, rocking back and forth to that mellow croon. I heard a Negro play down on Lenox Avenue the other night. In the pale, dull pallor of an old gas light, he did a lazy sway, to those weary blues. He did, with his ebony hands on each ivory key. He made that old piano moan with melody. Oh, blues. Oh, blues. Yes, that music just gave life to everything. Harlem, New York in the 1920s, the place to be. Well, I I've enjoyed talking with you and letting you know how excited I am to be back here, but I must get busy in writing my piece. Their eyes were watching.